Okay, so once again, our standard disclaimer, this call is being recorded. We will place our recording on our YouTube channel. If you don't want to be recorded, you may want to drop off now. Um, once again, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Our topic of discussion is a public preview of App Service Environment V3. So, uh, before we go towards the topic of discussion, just want to give a heads up. We will be taking a breaks and we will start back up on January 15th. So this is our last session for this year, and we will be coming back on January 15th with the new and exciting content. In the meantime, uh, you can check out our YouTube channel or Power Lunch website for the link to the YouTube content. Okay. With that, what is App Service Environment? If you know App Service is Microsoft PaaS service to run web application. Either they can be Linux, Windows, or containers in the cloud. This app service environment is a special type of app service that is VNet injected. Just do not confuse it with VNet integration or with private endpoint. This is a VNet injected service. It is injected into the virtual network of the customer. So if you have a virtual network, it will deploy infrastructure in your own virtual network. That's where it will be running. Okay. So what are the advantages of doing that? Advantages are that you have an isolated environment, you have a dedicated environment that you can use. Okay. You can run app service on it, you can run functions on it. Since it's inside your VNet, you get VNet integration by default. If you have services running on-prem that need to access this app service environment, they can, all of those goodies. So there have been multiple iteration. We had the app service environment V2 currently, and now they just introduced app service environment V3. So there are some significant improvement. One is networking is very much simplified. If you have done app service environment V2 for a customer, deployed it, you know the challenges. I mean, you have to open certain NSG, and we will talk about them in a second. All of those are gone. Very simple model. The second strike was on V2, or concern was that it is expensive. I mean, you have to pay $1,000 plus stamp fee even before you can run a single app on it. That is gone, and we will take a look at it in a second. It has more powerful model with more support. So this is kind of how it looks like. You have your app service environment, but you will have to open certain NSG so it can access certain Azure services, or it can talk to. So I think was management traffic was going on customer network, which is not kind of very, I mean, which did not.
Navid, we can hear you.
Okay, guys, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, perfect. Sorry, man. I'm not sure what happened. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start the recording again. And first of all, let me share my screen and let me start the recording. By the way,
Once you started to describe the version 3.
Oh, okay. So let me just, okay, the recording is still going on. Okay, that's good. So let's go back to the slide deck. Yeah, so basically in V3, what they have done is they have simplified networking. What they're doing is they are, instead of setting up NSG. So as you know, with AS V2, you have to set up um, NSGs for inbound and outbound traffic, since management traffic was happening on the customer network. That is not the case with V3. V3, no sir. Everything is separate plane for management traffic. And I want to show you this diagram. This is how they're separating the traffic. So you have the customer VNet where your AS is deployed, AS V3. That's where all the customer traffic, like the websites which are being hosted, all that traffic will happen there. Okay. On the second VNet, which is the infrastructure VNet, that's where that VM scale set is running, and which is the ACE basically, and all that traffic is the management traffic, like maintenance, all that uh, traffic is happening there. So you don't have to worry about that traffic. Because before, if you remember, if somebody wanna create an internal ACE, if this change one network setting, that was enough to basically break down the ACE, because they may have turned off some NSG or turn on some NSG which block the traffic, management traffic, and then ACE is basically not usable. So that's a big advantage. Any questions on that? Okay, so here is how this, as I was saying, this looks like in terms of an, I should say an NSG, sorry for the typo, NSG requirement. ASV2, you have to open these inbound and outbound port. ASV3, none. That's it. And we will look at the demo and that will be more clear, but I just want to kind of give a theoretical background. Okay. With that, and another thing is, if you remember, whenever we deployed ASV2, as soon as it is deployed, you are paying the fee, 1,000, even if you don't create a single app service plan. But with ASV3, you can deploy it, you can get it ready. You won't be charged any fee till you start deploying instances in it. Start creating app service plan. And I will explain it in detail in a second. Here is a quick overview of how this has been simplified, how it is made more customer friendly. If you are deploying in a region which is zone redundant, this will be a zone redundant ACE by default. Okay. Right now, the way it works is it doesn't have an externally available endpoint. It is internally available and it's exposed as a private endpoint. Okay. So that thing you have to keep in mind. If you want to make it externally available, you have to use some sort of NVA or application gateway. Okay. Since there is no stamp fee, that cost is off. And there are new, more powerful instances. It is using more powerful VMs, same VM which are used for app service. V3. These are the same PV3. These are the same used for ACE V3 as well. Okay. So without further ado, let's take a look at the demo. And let me know if there are any questions. Okay. So what you have to do is you have to go in and you have to say app service environment preview. And what you have to do is this is what you have to pick And then you have to, of course, create the resource, pick any resource group. Okay. And you have to pick a unique name because the name of your web app would be so name of your web app would be um, this, I mean, whatever your web app name is, your AS name, and then app service environment.net. Excuse me. Then in terms of hosting, you can host on a dedicated host environment. This is very powerful. So if you are familiar, Azure provides you the ability to have dedicated stamps that you can host your environment on. This is what it is. This allows you to host that dedicated environment on those dedicated hosts. So this, if you want to do that, you can turn it on, but you have to have a dedicated host already provisioned. Okay. This is the most interesting side. So you have to pick a network, then you have to pick two subnet. One is gonna be your outbound subnet. This is the subnet, and just keep in mind, this subnet will be delegated to to ASC. You cannot deploy anything in that subnet. You wanna pick it carefully. If you wanna scale your ASC to a very high number, you have to make sure that you have that many addresses available in that particular subnet. And that subnet, you cannot deploy anything. So either you create an advance, okay, and set up web form, I mean, this property on it, which is web form hosting environment, delegate it to it, or use create it now. Second one is the inbound subnet. It can be any subnet. What will happen is it will create a private endpoint to ASC in that particular subnet. That's it. So what will happen is all your website will be accessed from that private endpoint. What you will have to do afterwards, you have to create private DNS zones. Please note, it does not create those private DNS zones. So you have to create that private DNS zone to make sure, and I will show it in the documentation as well, so that you can access your website. So once again, that private endpoint you can access only from your VNet or from a VNet which is either peered, or if you are accessing from on-prem, that you have the private, you have the VPN or express route connectivity. One of those things, and then you will be able to access that. Okay. So just keep that in mind. And once again, it can be any subnet where you deploy.
So now a quick question. This is Agnishwari. So I mean, physically, where the worker is located, is it going to be in the customer network or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's going to be in the outbound subnet. All the workers will be created over there.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Only the private endpoint will be there. And once you review and create, it will take approximately 2 hours plus to create it. Okay. And this is at that time, you're not incurring any cost. Once it's created, it is there. There are no web apps running on it, but you are not incurring any cost. Later on, what you do is, let's say that your app service is created, environment is created, you go in and you say, I want to create an app service. So what you do is you go in there and you say, this is my, I'm going to call it NZAPL web. And that's where you select where you're going to deploy this app service. So basically you select the resource group and then you select the region. So either you select a region and then, or you select app service environment. So once you select it, then it picks up, okay, that's your selected runtime stack. I already have an app service plan. If I don't have an app service plan, it will create one. It takes a few minutes to create the app service plan, but that's when you will start it paying. And this is what you're gonna pay. So this is basically, let's say we create a new app service plan, plan 2. I'm gonna say here, and let's size. So these are the sizes that are available. Isolated 1, V2 isolated. So this is the cost. Compare it with $1,000+ plus your isolated plan. Now it is just the isolated. So if you're running one instance of that, you're just paying this. Okay, so this is a significant cost difference versus what you were paying with V2. So this kind of makes it more palatable for customer who before it was okay, if you are running a number of sites, maybe 10, 15, 20, you have to run it. But now if the number of sites is not that high, you still want to run it, you can. To meet your security, privacy requirement, you can. Compliance requirement, because the cost is very much palatable. There's no stamp fee or anything. Okay, everybody with me so far, hopefully. Any questions?
Hey Navid, sorry Shashi, a quick question, maybe you'll cover it. What are the options for migrating for existing customers?
Okay, right now in the preview it's not there, but what I heard is that there would be something on those lines. Just keep in mind, this is a preview. They're just testing waters. Yep. I think once they close to GA, then hopefully we hear something,
Thank you.
So welcome. So this is basically, that's how it is created. So what I have done in my demo environment, I have deployed an ASC. So let me show you here. Let's go into home and let's go into this resource group. So this is my resource group. Okay. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. This is the ASC that I have deployed, App Service Environment. I have one app service plan. I am running 2 web apps on that. This is the IP address. This is the private endpoint where all the web apps will be accessible. For the outbound, this is if I want to whitelist an outbound IP address, this is that one. For Linux, and this is for Windows, depending on what type of app I'm running, and I can run any app on it. Okay, this is the configuration. So I can encrypt all traffic, things like that, upgrade preference. I want to do early upgrades, late upgrades, so that gives you an option as well. Yeah, so that's my app service plan. And one thing I want to show you here in the resource group, this is let me show you my virtual network. Where did it go? Network. Okay, that is in a different VNet. So let me just open it in a tab. And let's go into a VNet. I have a different VNet where I'm creating this. So virtual networks. And this is the VNet. It's two, and you will see different subnet. There is an ASC subnet. As you can see, it is dedicated to host environments. That's where my ASC is deployed. Okay. And then here one VNet is creating the private endpoint, and I have a virtual machine deployed in this VNet. Remember, it's a private endpoint. I cannot access it from publicly. So for example, if I go to this website and I try to access this website, the website cannot be reached because that website is only privately available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my this is the other RDP. I'm RDPing into one of the machines, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this. So this is the other machine which is running inside I mean, I'm running inside of the same VNet where my private endpoint is. I'm doing RDP into it, and this is a website that is running. So if I browse this website, as you can see, this website is showing me, I can bring it up. I want to show you something here. I'm going to go into this. Once again, I'm going to go into that particular virtual network. I want to show you something there just to prove out a point. So this is my virtual networks, and I'm going to go into this API VNet. And if you see here, in the subnet, the ASC subnet, I have an, basically I am blocking all outbound traffic from that subnet. There is no outbound traffic. And as you can see here, I am still able to access, I mean, through a private endpoint, I'm still able to access this website. Here it is. So I can still access it. There is a private, basically what I'm doing is this is a web app, which is accessing a storage account to get some data. I have created a private endpoint to that storage account. So if we go in here, there should be a private endpoint to a storage account. This is the store PE, and that's where I am accessing all that information. And this is the network security group. I want to show it to you. Hopefully it is here. Yeah, this is the ASC out network security group, which is basically blocking all outbound internet traffic. Okay, so that is applied to the storage, to that ASC outbound. So all outbound traffic I am blocking. This is kind of a typical customer scenario where they're, they're not doing any outbound traffic. It's a very private environment. Or if they are doing any outbound traffic, they're explicitly opening, firewall or NSG rules. And just keep in mind, and they're explicitly opening it, they don't have to do anything for the control plane traffic. That traffic is happening on a different network anyway with this ASC v3. Any questions? Okay, with that, just keep in mind, if you are deploying services into this VNet or into this app service, you will have to deploy from a self-hosted agent. Okay, if you're running DevOps or if you're deploying it, you have to be able to access the SCM endpoint. Okay, so that you have to be able to do. That's why I have this, kind of VS Code, and I'm deploying it from there. So I'm just saying Azure Power Lunch. So let's deploy it from here. See, so basically, if I try to deploy it from on-prem, it will not work since it cannot access the SCM endpoint. So let's run this. And while it is running, I just want to show it to you the DNS zone. So this is the private DNS zones, 2 private DNS zones that you have to create. There should be 2, one for the app service environment and one for the SCM endpoint. And these are the setting. And by the way, it is very well documented in how when you create the ASC, what are the networking requirements. So just follow the steps. It's very well documented there. As you can see here, these are the 2 records that you will be creating for one, and for the SCM, this is the only record that you have to create. All of these records point to the private endpoint. Okay, so let's go back to our ASC. Let's see if it is deployed. Yes, it has deployed the website. So let's go to the website and let's see what happens. So yeah, welcome to Azure Power Lunch. As you can see, we just changed it. So the point is, you cannot deploy it from anywhere. You have to deploy it from a place which has access to that private endpoint, and you have the DNS settings all there. Okay, we have 3 more minutes. Any questions? So let's quickly jump on to some of the limitation. Right now, you cannot scale it beyond 5 instances. Okay, just keep that in mind. One thing, right now there is no support from command line or PowerShell. The only thing you can do is through portal. Okay, these are some of the things that you have to keep in mind. And I want to share with you, this is the main article, and these are, I have links in the web app as well. And this is the app service pricing information. I want to show it to you here. So you have the isolated plan. This is the app service V2. So you have this cost plus $1,000 a month. You know, this is basically there with ACE V2. With ACE V3, which is isolated plan V2, you don't have that cost. The only thing is, this is the cost that you're going to be paying, which is you have now larger instances and you have more memory, and you don't have to pay this kind of stamp fee or stamp tax. Okay. So with that, any other question? We have 1 more minute. Okay. So folks, thank you very much, and hope everybody have a safe and wonderful holidays. See you next year, and with another power lunch. So have a wonderful weekend. Thank you very much.